Hello everyone, welcome to episode 7 of Friday Fables. I'm one of your hosts, Jax, and joining me as always is Kira.
Hi, everybody.
Today we have a pretty interesting episode planned, but as always, we'll start off with games that we've been playing recently. So personally, I went back to Elden Ring to finish the DLC. I got the DLC when it came out, but I wasn't really feeling it kind of immediately, so I played it a little bit. Actually, I played it quite a bit, and then just put the game down because wasn't super enjoying it that much. But I always had the intention of going back and finishing it off because I wanted to see kind of how the whole saga of Elden Ring ended. So I picked it back up recently this week and finished the DLC. Then I started progressing through New Game Plus because I wanted to. One of the best things about the DLC is the new weapons. I think a lot of the new weapons are pretty cool, and I wanted to use them a bit more because, at least for me, my favorite weapons from the DLC you pretty much only get right at the end of the DLC once you've finished a lot of side quests or NPC quest lines, and then you really don't really have much of the game left unless you go into New Game Plus, which I did, and I'm enjoying that. Going through with some of the new DLC weapons. And yeah, overall, my thoughts on the Elden Ring DLC, I didn't really enjoy it, to be quite honest. Unfortunately, I don't think it was as good as the base game. I just think a lot of the level design and the area design just wasn't as interesting. A lot of areas I felt in the DLC kind of followed the same formula of they look quite nice, but they're relatively small, and there's usually going to be a furnace golem patrolling around, which are like some of the most annoying enemies in the entire game that they introduced to the DLC. And the big shame of those, honestly, is the fact that they replaced the Erdtree Guardians, who I actually really enjoyed from the base game. Because for anyone who's played the Dark Souls series, you'd recognize their moveset as being the Stray Demon moveset from Dark Souls 1. And then you have a reference to that in Dark Souls 3, sort of in the Farron Keep area. So it was nice to see that moveset make a return as an enemy type in the base game of Elden Ring. But yeah, those guys are gone now, and they're replaced by the Furnace Golems, who personally I just don't think are very interesting enemies. I think the way you fight pretty much all but one of them is exactly the same. And then that one is kind of just a gimmick enemy where, yeah, you have to like throw a pot in its head or something like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it did have some good bosses, I think. My favorite being Mesmer the Impaler. I also liked the Twin Moon Knight boss fight. I thought that was pretty good. The final boss did not enjoy at all. Just gonna go out and say that it wasn't the best fight. Um, I don't think it was terrible. It was kind of just like okay. The other thing is that I was just to go on a little bit more is I don't think the story was very well fleshed out either in the DLC. It's kind of one of those stories that, and From Software are known for doing this, where they don't really explain the story. It's very cryptic and it takes place in a lot of NPC dialogue. This DLC does that to the extreme, where, to be honest, while going through the DLC, I really didn't know what the whole point of this was, like what we were trying to do here. And then the final boss, you see them and you're just like, oh, why am I fighting them again? Because it's a boss that was in the base game. I'm not going to spoil who it is for anyone who has yet to finish it. But yeah, it's not really very well explained. It's kind of just thrown out there, and then you're done. You have a very abrupt ending to the game. You finish the boss. There's this like quote unquote cutscene. Um, it's not really a cutscene. It's literally just a statue with some dialogue over the top of it that doesn't really make a lot of sense unless you're probably nose deep in Elden Ring lore, reading tomes upon tomes of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I was just like kind of happy to be done with it, and then going back to the base game was refreshing, and I'm really enjoying exploring the lands between again. So that's been a significant amount of my time playing through that. In a similar vein, I've also gone back to Dark Souls 2, going through New Game Plus in that game as well because I'm trying to get my Platinum trophy, and I pretty much have everything that I need from New Game Plus. I just need to get to New Game Plus Plus and get to sort of one of the end game areas just to buy a few miracles and I think a pyromancy from uh, a merchant that's in a castle. And then I should have it, so hopefully I'll get that done soon. But I'm not really rushing, I'm just kind of taking my time through that game. And then aside from those two, I've been playing a little bit of War Within. Um, yeah, that's mainly it. I don't really have a lot of positive things to say about World of Warcraft right now, so I will pass over to Kira.
Hello. So for me, I've been playing a lot of Warcraft War Within still. Just been doing the normal grindy stuff, doing the world quests, doing the weekly stuff of I'm not doing the awakening machine thing because I don't really like it, but I get a little stressed out in there. But I do all the other stuff. You're good. Do your weekly dungeon. Do this. Do that. Do the delves. I've been trying to get the higher level rewards for the vault next week. Because it's been a while since I've actually got vault stuff, which is kind of cool. The delves and world activities it says counts for that. So I think doing world quest was unlocking the vault, which was kind of interesting. But to get higher level drops from that, it tells you complete a delve on tier 6, complete a delve on tier 7, that kind of stuff. So I haven't done the new big bad boss that they're doing for delves yet. Working up to that. I just haven't felt the big urge to go try and push to do that. But yeah, I'm still enjoying World Within. It's pretty cool. Did some old raids recently. Jags and I went back and did some Sanctum of Domination on Mythic. We duoed that, which I wasn't sure we'd be able to do that because normally, it's old content, but normally they kind of have to tweak it to allow, some of the Legion raids they didn't fix until fairly late into, was it BFA, not BFA, Shadowlands or something, so that you could actually solo and duo it. But we were able to do it, and that was pretty cool. So yeah, that was pretty neat. I like doing stuff like that. I've also been playing a lot of Cosmic Star Heroine. I've been trying to do my Let's Plays on that. I'm actually really, really enjoying that game. The art style, the character art style really reminds me of Phantasy Star 4. Like this game just I'm constantly getting Phantasy Star 4 vibes, but in like a good way. Not like in a well then I'll just go play Phantasy Star 4 way. It's just I feel like that game might have been inspired by that one. I don't know that it was, but the main characters and the art and everything, like their personalities, it all kind of reminds me a little bit of Phantasy Star. And but the story's like completely different. They're all completely different characters, everything like that. So I'm really interested to see where the story's going. I'm really enjoying it a lot. When I'm recording, I actually forget that I'm recording because I get really into the game. Which I can't say that for every game I've played because I'm usually very aware that I'm recording because I'm trying to be, a little more out of my own head because I try and voice any thoughts that I'm having about a certain thing, and in that one I just get so tied up in the game I forget I'm recording. So it's been a good game so far. I've also been playing a little bit of Sunhaven because, like I had mentioned previously, I think in several episodes ago, they have done some new updates to that one, and I haven't checked it out yet. So I'm finally getting around to checking out Sunhaven to see what their new updates are. It's always I love Sunhaven. It is a very Stardew like game. It's in that same genre where you do your farming and all that, but they have a lot of like fantasy elements to it. You get to pick your race and stuff like that. You have magic, which is kind of neat. So yeah, I'm enjoying that. Speaking of which, I of Stardew, I've heard that some of the mods for it, like the expanded, is going to be updated soon-ish. Like they're working on it, and it's going to be even bigger and better than it currently is. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll have to try that when that comes out. And then the last thing that I've been playing recently is Satisfactory. It finally left early access and is actually fully released now. And I absolutely love it. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I will say that I am terrible, terrible, terrible at organizing everything in that game because, oh my God, I've never played a survival game. And I'm counting this as survival, it's like a builder thing. But I've never played one where you have to organize quite as much. It's crazy. I'm terrible. Like I have all these conveyor belts that are like running through each other and it looks horrible. And I keep restarting the game because I'm trying to make it neater and it's just not working. So yeah, it's a mess. It's this big spider web of conveyor belts going this way and that way and blah. I need to bring in like the vertical planet, like at the layers of your factory and actually use like the vertical conveyor belts. That might help. But oh, it's horrible. It's super messy and I can't get it to look nice. Maybe you can't. Maybe that's the whole thing is you just can't. And I need to accept that and move on. But no, it has to look nice. Because it's all supposed to be like this machinery, and I think of that as being like neat and tidy. Um, and no, mine's just everywhere. It's like someone spilled a factory all over the place. So yeah. But those are the games that I have been playing recently. That's it for me.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a good bunch of games. Getting back into that
It's
like
been a lot of fun.
crafting kind of mood.
Mm. Yeah. I get in that crafty kind of I want to build something. I want to go down like the big progression. Like I want to start out with nothing and then I learn this stuff and then I learn this stuff and by the end of it I can take over the world kind of thing. I like doing that.
Yeah.
Where you just start out with like a little stone pickaxe and by the end of it you've got like lasers and stuff. I always like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you mentioned you're still playing some World of Warcraft. How would you describe your thoughts on the expansion so far?
Overall, I still really like the expansion. Like I do. I love the content. I love the story. I like the changes they've made with Warband. So overall, I have a very positive feeling about it. As it's gone on, I have started to notice some things that I wish were a little bit better. Um, like once you have the weekly reset, you have a whole bunch of stuff to do, like right after the reset and then it kind of starts slacking off pretty hard. And
Yeah.
I don't mean like the big quests. I mean like just normal world quests being up. I've noticed they don't really seem to respawn as quickly as previous expansions, like Legion, BFA, Shadowlands, all of that. The world quest, I remember always having world quests to do. Or at least I'd have enough to do. Like whenever I get off work and start playing, I'd have enough world quests to do. And I've noticed that playing War Within, I get off work and I log in, and I had already done the world quest from yesterday, but they haven't. They're not back up yet. Like I literally the other day I logged in and I had 4 world quests to do total, and it's like, ooh. So I kind of wish there was a little more to do in that vein. I wish that they would reset a little bit faster but and I've come across more bugs this expansion than I've noticed. And I don't mean spider bugs. There are a lot of bugs in this expansion. There's spiders like everywhere, but there's actual like game bugs that
Yeah.
I've noticed. Some of them are pretty minor. They just seem to be happening more frequently. Like I don't know if anybody else has had that experience where you walk up to turn in a quest and you go to take the next one and it bugs so you have to like walk away from the quest giver to get it to kind of reset and then you walk back up and you can finally talk to the quest giver again and accept your new quest. That's always been an issue. I mean, not always, but that's been an issue for several years now. But I've noticed recently, instead of it being, 1 out of 50 quests, it's been like 1 out of 10 quests. Like it happens quite frequently now. Um, but yeah, I'm still enjoying it. I'm looking forward to, I mean, the season one just started, and I was kind of hoping that when that started, I'd have a lot more to do. and there is a lot more to do. The delves, you can go much difficult, much higher tiers there, so that they're more difficult. Um, but I kind of just wish that there was a little bit more to do to kind of just build up while you're in between stuff like that, because it's I'm in a Warcraft mood. I want lots of stuff to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm still really enjoying it. I still it's in my book, it's a good one. It's just I'm starting to kind of notice, hey, that maybe the respawn times on these could be a little bit better. But yeah, that's it for me. What about you?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with what you said. I think the story is really good, this expansion. Definitely a
Mhm.
step up from, the likes of like Shadowlands and stuff. The story is a lot more coherent this time around, and yeah, I do think that the end game, if you're a solo player or as someone who prefers playing in smaller groups, like maybe you and another person, or three people, basically less than five people, if you're that kind of player, this expansion definitely has the best end game loop, like, easily, hands down, for that kind of a player. Because if you compare it with the previous expansions, if you go all the way back to Classic, if you're that kind of a player, if you're a solo player, the game sort of pretty much ends when you hit max level. Because if you look at Classic WoW, end game is really kind of doing your attunement, doing your, you know, end game dungeons for the purpose of gearing for raids. Maybe you'll do some professions, but again, the end goal here is to raid, 40-man raiding, whatever the case may be. And then you sort of had some other expansions. The most notable kind of, I guess, framework for the end game would be kind of the Legion, BFA, and Shadowlands 3, where they have this whole thing called artifact power, and now what you're doing is you're trying to hit your weekly caps on AP, right? So you're doing those world quests with their. You don't really enjoy them. You're just doing them because you have to level up your Heart of Azeroth or your Legion artifact weapon, or soul bindings from Shadowlands, because you need it to raid or to do world content, harder world content. Um, but like the way War Within works is now you're kind of working towards doing activities in the open world. As Kira mentioned, you do get progress in the Great Vault for doing world activities, so that's already a big bonus, because otherwise, if you're that kind of a solo player or a small group player, the Great Vault is pretty much off limits to you. You would never go up to it on reset day, but you'd see all these other people kind of going like this, some kind of grand opening, and you'd feel a bit left out. So now that's no longer a thing. World quests do count towards it, but generally the loop is pretty good, where you're doing world content, you're doing events, you're doing world quests, and your kind of fundamental goal here is to get enough, either get a fully restored key, or to get key fragments, and you need 100 free key fragments to create a restored coffer key. And what that does is, so there are several delves, I think there's like 12 total. They cycle on a time limit, so every 4 hours or something, a new set of delves will be called bountiful delves. And what that means is, at the end of them, upon completing the delve, there's a bonus chest, and in order to open that chest, you need a restored coffer key. So you'd open the key, and you're guaranteed to get like some good loot, right? The item level depends on what tier the delve is that you're doing, but it is supposed to be good loot. The problem, however, is what Kira said, is that there's never enough world quests up. There's lots and lots of time gating this expansion, and this is where I feel like we're going a bit back to BFA and Shadowlands in terms of how time gated the end game is, where you're only allowed to use this many keys a day. There's only ever going to be this many world quests up, so effectively in a week, if you do everything, you're just doing open world content. I don't know, like in heroic dungeons or the raids give you keys, but you're going to have a finite number that you can collect per week. So effectively, I feel personally like we're going back to the whole busy work thing, where like I think the framework of what it is now, everything feeds into itself kind of in a pretty logical way, where you're kind of doing the open world quests, you're getting your key fragments, creating your key, then you're going into delves, and then rinse and repeat that. You get your chest, you go back out, you get more keys. But because of how time gated everything is, now it feels like Kira said on reset day, a lot of things become available, and there's kind of like this obligation for you to just go ahead and do it all now, so you can get your key fragments, go and do the delves, and it starts to feel like busy work, and like it reminds me a little bit of like doing the callings from Shadowlands. Um, so that's not great with how gated everything is right now. The other thing is the fact that the world quests just again it does feel a bit like Shadowlands where they're in too small of an area and there's just not enough stuff spawning. Everything respawns too slowly, and if there's even like because I remember there's like four of us doing a world quest, there's just simply not enough mobs to go around. So these start to feel really annoying on top of the fact that you feel like you're being forced to do this effectively because I mean, who really wants to log into WoW to just do world quests? That's not ever really been something that I think until Legion, where world quests were introduced, um, people were not. They're not like just playing this game to do world quests. It's kind of like world quests are a means to an end. They're kind of something you do to do the content that you do want to do. And when the stuff that you're not really particularly a fan of doing takes so long because of bad reasons like stuff not spawning fast enough, then it becomes a bit of a problem. And then, as Kira mentioned, bugs. I've experienced quite a few of them personally. Like, there's just this expansion is extremely buggy. There was also an issue with delves that Blizzard have been hotfixing for a couple of days at least now, where mobs are not scaling properly. You can get one shot at like I think tier 7, tier 8 there. So that's it's not great on that regard either. I mean, personally, my game crashed as soon as I hit level 70 on my hunter, so that's also not great. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, I think. I think the story is great. I do really like the hero talents, as I said. I think that the framework for what we have as an end game loop for the solo player is the best that we've had out of any of the expansions. But I think its implementation with how much, I guess, without a lack of a better word, I mean, they've blizzarded it with the time gating, the bugs, the slow respawn time of mobs. It just kind of makes it a little bit disappointing, I think. But yeah, that's I think our thoughts on War Within so far. What do you have anything else you'd like to add, Kira?
Nope, that's it for me. And like I said, I'm really enjoying the story. I like that they have tried to do more solo content. That part's kind of neat with the delves and stuff. They will be. It's not out at the time of us recording this, but they will be doing the story mode raid for
Oh
also
yeah,
for solo
that's also a
players.
really cool thing. Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really neat that that'll be coming out. It's not out yet. The raiders have started. They've already started doing the normal raid and stuff. So the rest of us who are solo players are waiting on that. They did say that that would be something that they would continue all through the World Soul saga, is the story raids. So that's kind of cool. So if you're interested, because that's always been the thing, right? Is you do all the story, you get up to the raid, and then you have to do the raid to see what ends up
Yeah, the
happening with the
conclusion. Yeah.
cutscenes. Yeah, and now that they're letting you, as if you don't want to actually raid with a bunch of people, you can go in and see it all for yourself, which is kind of neat. I like that. But yeah, I'm still, like I said, I'm still playing it. I'm still enjoying it. It's just that thing where you start to notice. It's like, oh, I wish this was a little bit different, a little bit better. Um, but yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So that's we'll keep you updated on our thoughts, mostly Kira's thoughts.
Hmm.
Expansion.
Yeah.
But cool. So moving on to our main segment for this episode. Our question this week is: what games or series do we wish would have a full English release? So these are games that I guess primarily have been released in Japan and have remained Japan only. Maybe there's like a fan translation, but there's no official translation for these games, and we've been really wanting to play them. So we hope that they do get some kind of official. I mean, at this point, a lot of our games are kind of old games, so ideally we'd want like a remaster or something like that. But in any case, just an English release would be great. So For me, I have two games in particular. The first one for me is the Kingsfield series. Well, from 2 onwards, they were getting a release in the West, but the first game has still not. I think there is an unofficial translation of it, but it's never been officially translated by From Software. So I played all of the Dark Souls games. I played a ton of that series, Elden Ring as well, Bloodborne. I'd really like to play the Kingsfield series, but I kind of want to. They're quite archaic, so to be honest, I'd really like to see that series remade or something kind of like with how Miyazaki made Demon Souls, which was kind of the spiritual successor to the Kingsfield series, and then the Dark Souls series, which is the successor to Demon Souls. I would like to see the Kingsfield series kind of brought out at some point in English, because I'd really like to experience those games. They look quite interesting with how they're these first-person dungeon crawlers. They seem to have a really, really good atmosphere. I was playing a game recently, actually, that is very heavily inspired by Kingsfield, which is called Lunacid, and it's available on Steam, so on PC. I highly recommend it if anyone's interested in trying a Kingsfield-like game. It's cool. I mean, it's like fantasy world, dark fantasy, first person. You pick your class, and the combat is extremely basic. It's very much like you just click. There's lots of kiting enemies around as well, but just the atmosphere and the music is really unparalleled, I think. So I'd really like to see the Kingsfield series make a return, hopefully. I am somewhat hopeful just because of how well the Dark Souls series has done. Obviously Elden Ring as well. And I mean, From Software even last year brought back the Armored Core series, which is a series that I think many fans thought was dead. I'm not an Armored Core fan, but I do have that game. I've played a little bit of it. I do need to go back to that game actually. But yeah, because it looks like they're bringing back some of their old franchises. I think a lot of it is in part due to the success of their Souls kind of games. They're able to do this, so that's great to see, and I hope that they do bring out Kingsfield 1 with a full English release. Maybe a remaster, that would be great, especially if it's in the vein of like the Demon Souls remaster, where it is just a ground-up remake. That'd be great. And then the second game is actually 2 games, and that is the Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2, but particularly 2 because, to my understanding, 2 has a lot of elements and themes that stick around for the rest of the series, and especially my favorite entry is, my favorite Atlas game is Shin Megami Tensei 4, and I think a lot of the stuff that happens in Shin Megami Tensei 4 and Apocalypse is quite similar to 2 from what I've read. So I'd really like to play Shin Megami Tensei 2. I think there's also this fan theory with like a possible connection between Shin Megami Tensei 2 and Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne with one of the characters. I'm not going to go into it because it's a huge spoiler for anyone who hasn't played either of those 2 games, but particularly Nocturne, because it actually heavily feeds into one of the endings, the final kind of act of that game. It's not true, by the way. I think I've read online, I did my research on this, and it's not actually like connected, but anyway. I'd really like to play those 2 games with an official translation. I've heard the first game is extremely difficult, but the second one they kind of eased up on it a little bit. That seems to be the way with Atlas, which is one thing I really like about them as a developer, is that they tend to take feedback quite seriously. So whenever their games have any kind of criticism, usually if they re-release it or if they make a sequel, they will address those directly, and that is what they did with the second one, is they kind of eased up on the difficulty bit. So I'd really like to play Shin Megami Tensei 2 with an official translation. Now both games do have unofficial translations, but I haven't really looked into anything about like setting it up, and I kind of don't want to. I'd rather play like an official release of those games. So hopefully that'll happen soon. I do feel quite positive about it, because just like From Software, Atlas have been doing really well recently with a lot of their series. Of course, everyone knows Persona now. That's like a household name with their JRPG community. and they recently released Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. So they're bringing their games to multiple platforms. Obviously, PC has helped a lot with games like Persona 4 Golden being released there, and then the Persona 3 Reload. So hopefully, this is a sign for good things to come in the future for Atlas, and hopefully that does include a Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2 official translation with maybe a remaster. That would be great. So those are my picks. What about you, Kira?
Those are some awesome picks because like those are ones that these series have kind of taken off and the companies have kind of taken off, and it'd be really cool to see some of their early stuff
Yeah,
actually get some nice, TLC now that they've aged. It's like, let's go. I want to play these originals. Let's go.
and the
That would
interest
be
is
very
probably
cool.
peaked as well because a lot of people have, especially with Elden Ring, a lot of people got into the Souls games
Hmm.
again. And with
Yeah.
Persona 5, that's gotten people interested in Atlas. So I think it'd be a good time
Yeah.
to release these kind of old games, give people a history lesson where it's all came from.
Yeah. And then it's one of those that as you play those, especially those types of games, it's always, but you want to go back and play more like it,
Yeah,
because that's
exactly.
always the thing is if you like it, you're always wanting more like it. And so you tend to want to play more within that same series. And if you started in the later number, your first course of action is to start backwards. It's like,
Yeah,
well, let's go back to some of them. And it always sucks when you hit that wall and it's like, but it's not in English. I don't know what's going on. So, yeah. So for me, my picks, some of them are going to be a little, I'll have to explain why I picked them. So for me, I want Fantasy Star Generations 1 and 2. I've mentioned those before. I do understand that, yes, you can play fantasy, the old Fantasy Stars, like on the Master System and the Genesis. Those have been translated. But Phantasy Star Generations 1 and 2 are actually full remakes that they did on the PlayStation 2. And there's a huge difference in what the Sega Genesis and especially the Master System could do over what the PlayStation 2 could do. And they looked like I've seen screenshots of these and they look so nice. And there is not an official translation for these. I believe you can go out and find a fan translation, which is wonderful. That is absolutely great. It just, for me, would be really nice if there was actually an official translation on it because I feel like in some ways the official translations can be a little more accurate to what the company was going for. Sometimes not. But fan translations have been known, and I'll bring that up in a minute, have been known to take some leeway with the translation and they put things in there that it's like, where did that come from? So you never know when you're getting that and when you're getting the, official, like this is what the company would have done. So, and any more translations are pretty good when they do them officially. Yes, there was the whole all your base are belong to us that happened. That was bad.
yeah,
But that was a long time ago. So any more of the translations are pretty good. Um, but I would really love to see. Everyone knows I'm a big Fantasy Star fan, especially those original four. Um, I would love, love, love to see an official because I still haven't played those. I want to play Fantasy Star Generations, and ideally, I would love to do a Let's Play. I just know that there can be some different rules when they haven't been translated and released. So I'll have to look into it. But man, that would be awesome. That would totally just make my whole life at that point. Um, Another one that I would like to see, I'm gonna go with Tales of Destiny 2.
mm,
It is one that it was never released over here. We don't have a translation. Even finding a fan translation for that one can be a little tricky. It was back on the PlayStation 2. I loved Tales of Destiny. It was the first Tales that I got into in the series. And it would just be awesome because we got a Tales of Destiny 2 on PlayStation, but it was not actually Tales of Destiny 2. Was it Tales of Eternia, I believe.
yeah,
Completely different game. So if you're going into it expecting any kind of link to Tales of Destiny, any kind of continuation, you will be sorely disappointed because that's what happened to me. I went into it going Tales of Destiny 2, yay! And I got it, and I was so excited as a kid, and then I played it, and I was like, "What is this?" So
Is
it
there a
was
reason for
not
that?
Tales of
Why was it
Destiny.
called Tales of Destiny 2 if it's not actually a sequel to Tales of Destiny?
Because it was still a Tales game where it had like the combat and it's a big
Yeah.
RPG epic story. And they were thinking that Westerners would just go, oh, well, it's like Final Fantasy 1 and 2 and 3,
Oh,
where
I
they're not
see.
actually related.
Yeah,
So it was supposed to be like
like that
a
kind of game.
continuing, like, yeah, it's going to be one of those types of games, but I already knew that there were other Tales games. Like it's the Tales series.
Yeah,
That's what I look at, and not Final Fantasy series. And so yeah, it kind of backfired for me. I don't know if it just backfired in general, but I personally I had just finished Tales of Destiny, and I was so excited to play Tales of Destiny
you
2,
mean
and then found out,
I was like,
yeah, and I was like,
what is
who
this?
are these people? What is this? What's going on?
Interesting
And
game.
I well, the thing is that kind of hurt for me. That hurt that game in particular,
Yeah, no doubt.
because I went in with these expectations, and then it wasn't that, and I was like, ugh. So I actually stopped playing it, and I didn't give that game even a remotely fair chance, and that's not fair to that game. That game, if I remember right, like it looked really neat, and if I would actually take a step back and go, it's okay that it's not Tales of
Yeah,
Destiny. I actually probably really would have enjoyed it. But to this day, I haven't actually played it. I should do that now that I'm actually sitting here talking about it. It's like, you know what? That's a Tales game I haven't played. This could be fun. But
yeah.
so now I'm
Maybe a
kind of
let's play.
excited because I want to go. Yeah, I kind of want to go play that one because it's like, ooh. But yeah, I was so upset at the time. I was like, what is this? This is not Tales. Where's what? And on that note, I'm going to continue and say Tales of Destiny Director's Cut is one that I would really, really like to see a fan translation of. It is a remake of Tales of Destiny, and it was released on the PlayStation 2, and they added a whole bunch of new stuff to it. Like, you now have his sister as someone that can join the party. That was not a thing in the original. And they let you see, if you guys know who Leon is, they let you see his side of the story. They let you see it from his point of view, which is kind of cool. Like, wow, when did this happen? So I would love an official translation. The last time I looked up Tales of Destiny 2, not 2, Director's Cut, they were working on a fan translation, but the group that I know of that was working on it got a cease and desist from Namco and had to
Oh
stop.
man. Yeah.
So, at the time, I was hoping maybe that means that they're going to actually like do something, like they're going to release it
Yeah.
in a way that I can. It's been like 6 years now. I don't think they're going to do it. So it's like, what the heck? But I believe there is actually fan translation out there for this one, so that might be another one that I try and play at some point. Even if I can't do a let's play on it, I may try and do that because it looks beautiful. Because I love the Tales of Destiny original look. I do. And any game that looks like it is going to get me to play it. Like I am so excited to play E's Origins because it gives me these Tales of Destiny vibes, and I love that. But when you see this story that you love so much done and redone and to look really nice in the PlayStation 2 style graphics, and it looks really neat, you get really excited. Like, well, I want to play that too.
Yeah.
Let's go. So I would love to play that one. Another one that I would love to see a fan translation is Fire Emblem Mystery of the Emblem. I would love to see that one actually officially brought over in English. There were a lot of Fire Emblems that were not translated into English, and there still are several. But they've gone back and like, was it Awakening or Shadow Dragon? One of those. It was I get my Fire Emblems confused because they're not done by numbers. I get confused. But they did go back and they took the first Fire Emblem and remastered it and or remade it and released it on the DS. So everyone got to see it. It wasn't just a Japanese game anymore. Because I think the one that we very first got was it like Fire Emblem 5, Fire Emblem 6, something like that. So it wasn't actually the very first Fire Emblem on the Game Boy Advance. So there were, but they've gone back and they've translated and released a lot of the Fire Emblems. But that is one that it always looked kind of neat to me, and I would really like to see that one translated. And as always, I always have a long list. My last one for this, which I'll have to explain just a little bit, is Tales of Fantasia.
Yep.
And everyone's going to be like, but there already is one. It's on the Game Boy Advance. I know, but did a different release of Tales of Fantasia on the PlayStation 1. And to me, it looks like it's using the Tales of Destiny engine because it looks exactly like Tales of Destiny. I think even some of the music might be the same. But I've already mentioned if it looks like Tales of Destiny, I want to play it.
Yeah.
And that's what they did here. And it to me, it runs a bit smoother. The voice acting is nicer. It may even be the same voice acting, but it sounds better on the PlayStation. The Game Boy Advance, I've heard it because I have it. I it doesn't. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I just don't. It doesn't sound as nice because they've had to like cut it all down for the Game Boy Advance. But the version on the PS1, I really like the voice acting on it. It sounds clean and clear. They can even leave the voice acting in Japanese. I just want the English subtitles. I want the menus and all that, so I know what's going on. And there are what two different versions of a fan translation for Tales of Fantasia on the PlayStation. And I like the one, is it by Absolute Zero, I think is my favorite. I know that that is a line for some people. How dare you like that one? Because it's surprisingly controversial, which translation people like. But that's where I get into that. You never know when it's the translator putting something weird in there or if it's, was in the original game kind of thing. And would the company have gone that route with the translation? Because there's like two different ways you could go with it. And that's personally why I like the Absolute Zero one just a little bit better, is I feel like the other translation took some liberties with the translation and I didn't really personally care for that. I mean, if that's up to you if you like that one. I mean, I did a bunch of research before I picked, and most people were saying the Absolute Zero is truer to the original script. Like it's a truer translation to it. So I wanted the truer translation. So that's the way that I went. But I know that there's a lot of diehard fans of the other translation, and that's wonderful because the guy put a lot of work into it, and that's awesome. But that is the other one that I would love to see not a an official translation of that. And if any of them take up my, if they're, Namco's out there listening, obviously, if they're all out there, Sega's listening, if anybody's actually listening and they decided to do, oh yeah, we can do an official translation, if you wouldn't mind doing a remake and making them look modern and pretty, that'd be wonderful too.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
yeah, why not? Yeah, those are my picks. And believe it or not, that is me narrowing it down. I'm so bad at these lists. I'm always like, okay, I'll narrow it down. And then I go to do it. I'm like, I've got like 20. So, but yeah, those are my picks.
Oh yeah, that was a good collection of games, I think. What was that
I
Fire
just love
Emblem?
my RPGs.
Sorry?
Fire Emblem Mystery of the
I've never
Emblem.
heard of that game. What is that? Is that like
Yeah.
a is that a mainline game or is it like a spin-off?
I think it might be a mainline game. I actually don't know how it fits into that story. I'm really bad about, I'll read about them, but then I try and forget about them because I can't play them.
Right.
So I did a ton of research on it at the time. I was like, damn it, I can't play this. And I haven't gone back and looked it up again.
Mhm.
It's just one that's flagged there in my memory as it's one that I really wanted to play at the time, but it never got an English release. Um, so it may be a spinoff, but that would be okay because it looked really cool. I'm a huge sucker for Fire Emblem, like that whole fantasy style. Like they have a lot of Pegasus knights kind of thing. Like I'm like, yay! I love Fire Emblem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would be excited to play that one. Any Fire Emblem game. There's a few that Well, actually, there's only one I can think of that I wasn't just head over heels for, and unfortunately, I think it was the most recent one, and it was okay. Like I still liked it. I just usually whenever Fire Emblem comes out, you're just gonna hear me rave for like a month about Fire Emblem and how wonderful and this game's so awesome. And that one, I was just a little more quiet about it. It's like, yeah, it came out, it's good, I like it. Yeah, you know, it's
Yeah,
so
definitely.
even their ones that flop with me, flop quote unquote, I still really like a lot. So I can't go wrong with a Fire Emblem.
What one was that one? The most recent one? Was that the like
Engage.
yeah, the with the hair
Yeah.
kind of
The hair, the
the
red
most
and blue.
iconic thing about that game that I remember.
Yeah.
Weird
Yeah,
hair.
yeah. The weird hair with the red and the blue and yeah. It was a little weird for me. I liked it and I liked a lot of the system updates that they did to it, just the
Mhm.
functionality of the game. Um for some reason, something about that one, the story just didn't grip me like some of the previous ones.
Yeah.
Like I really liked Radiant Dawn. That one was really good. There was a lot of fire, like almost every Fire Emblem. I just go, that is so good. For some reason, something about that one just didn't quite get me like some of the previous ones. Like I even liked the Three Houses, and I know not everybody was crazy about that one, but I really enjoyed it. Like I have literally enjoyed every Fire Emblem, including Engage. I did like it. Like, geez, I got all the extra stuff with it and played through all of it. I wouldn't do
Yeah.
that if I didn't like it.
Yeah.
But it's probably a little lower on my Fire Emblem list than some of the others. But it's a solid, good game, especially if you like the that tactics strategy style game. It's good.
I had no idea people didn't like Three Houses. I haven't played the game myself. I'm not a big Fire
Mm.
Emblem guy, but I didn't know people didn't like it. I remember that game having a lot of hype behind it, and one of my friends at the time was really looking forward to playing it because he really likes Fire Emblem.
I think a lot of people did really like it. I know I did. I just have heard that some people it didn't grab them. Like they didn't really like the whole three house part, having to kind of pick your factions and stuff like that. They didn't really like that. Um,
Mm.
but I mean, I played. God, I played through all three of their main storylines, and then I New Game Plus each one of them as well.
Oh
So I don't
wow,
even know how many. Yeah, I don't know
hardcore.
how many hours I had into Three Houses, and then they had like the DLC for it, and I did all of that. And I mean, I get super into Fire Emblem if
Yeah,
I yeah. So when one comes out, I'm already waiting for the next one. Like I'm always excited about that. We need more Fire Emblems.
yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Kira, and I think that will bring us to the end of another episode. So thanks very much everyone for listening and joining us today for episode 7 of Friday Fables. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Jags, and joining me today was Kira.
Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Jax. I had a great time. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Awesome. So hope you guys all have a nice rest of the week or weekend, and we'll catch you next time on the next episode.